Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Hi, everyone. What's up? What's going on?
I think you're still in your post-season losing your mind over there.
No, I'm getting over it. Takes me a little while. This one was even weirder than usual. We hadn't won in a while. So, and then we got a lot of changes.
Marching to slaughter every week?
Then I got real excited real fast, right when it was over. So, this is a new one for me.
You got news dumped.
I did get news dumped. We're firing our coach, but we're hiring that guy.
Don't process any of that. Just now.
Actually, I had the whole month of December to process it. It was a death march.
Yeah,
I hadn't been on one of those for a while. So, that's the thing. The processing part would have occurred if the season went down the way I thought it was, like around 500, maybe in the playoffs, maybe not. And then we have the same conversation we've had every year, but that didn't happen. So post-Thanksgiving, I had 6 weeks to basically go, well, I know where this is going, so let's just get through our feelings now and see where we land at the end of it. But it's not like there's any kind of surprise anymore.
Right. Yeah,
so it's different. I'm just tired, that's all. And then, they whoop me up into a frenzy real quick by hiring, that guy. So, now I'm all whooped up again real quick.
You and I are living similar lives right now with our respective teams.
Oh, yeah, you guys are, you guys had a little spark against the Rangers, and then all of a sudden it was like no pulse.
It's the same thing as last year.
Capitals have no pulse all of a sudden.
It's literally the same thing as last year.
They're an old team that has old man moments.
Slow start. No, but it was exact mirror. Slow start, look really good from like half of November into December. Mm-hmm. And everyone gets old in January and just doesn't want to play anymore. So
this is also the 2024 presidential race. We're going to have a lot of ups and downs. You're going to have some moments where you're like, oh, he still got his fastball. Oshie gets a hat trick. Look at that.
Right.
Wow.
But when does it break?
Yeah, but then Ovechkin's missing games.
Yeah.
What's going on here? That's the senior moments we get post-New Hampshire.
I was thinking about this last night. The fan base last year, it was really funny. Because Caps Twitter is an amazing place. There's a range of emotions, but everyone in it was in agreement last year. If the Caps lose, but Ovechkin scores one or two, great.
Because they knew what the score was last
Correct.
year. You guys were pulling. Last year, you had Ron behind the bench. You were playing out a string. I think you guys knew.
But it was also, we know what the greater good is here. And
Old Lobs was hired to do one specific thing. It didn't happen. He tried to squeeze a lot of juice out of a lemon. And I don't blame the hiring, and I don't blame how it went down, and I don't blame him. I think he was given a charge to do something that, was going to be hard to pull off, but they got a guy who's pulled that off before. Now, once we had turned the corner, they had to go to the other guy who goes, you know what, I'm going to needle these old dudes a little bit and see what I can get out of them, which is what he's supposed to do.
What you just said, squeeze the lemon. Well, this year there is no lemon, apparently, because number 8's not scoring.
Right. Well, this is a weird
death spiral. We're in death spiral right now.
This is a weird team. This is a weird team. And he knew that going in. I described it as they have to thread the needle. He's threading a really hard needle here. There's this old core that's still there that they can't move on from, partially by design and partially because their contracts haven't run out. Mm-hmm. And then they're chasing this record, which is, that's a different conversation right now than it was a year ago.
That's what I'm saying. People were satisfied because they didn't care because he was still scoring.
He's going to score. He's going to break his record.
Now he's not scoring.
Now he's not going to do it until 2031. And at that point, while Ted's so loyal, he'll be doing it in Potomac Yards. But, I mean, at least he could sell that now. All of a sudden.
Conspiracy theory. Ted told Ovi to stop scoring. So
only 6 a year.
So it lasts until they go to Virginia.
Yager's playing when he's 50. You can play till you're 50. Anyway, we'll get back into the Caps later. I want to start with this way too early. Here's what's going to happen in 2024. Predictions from executives in the NFL by Jeremy Fowler. At least Mel waits for the draft to finish before he says what the next year draft is going to be.
Mel
doesn't do mock draft 1 2025 3 days before the draft. of 2024. Fowler's putting these out now before the season is even over.
I think this goes with Carlin and Joe's discussion yesterday, which was January 23rd. Who's pre-fired going into next year? I think Fowler might have heard that and said,
that is a good segment.
I thought that was fantastic. I think he's just doing, let's see what it is for the rest of the league.
I do love these, though. I mentioned these in August and early September. The Mike Sando pieces of the quarterback ratings, where you get the truth-telling from executives who basically say, I actually think that guy stinks, is like amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing. And then he does the old, like, it's like the power rankings. He does the power ranking thing. And it's amazing because they trust him. He gets everybody. They're on the record, but they're all unnamed. And you can't even guess who said what about who. It's really amazing.
Yeah. There's some pointed quotes.
So we've got this one. And there's some pretty good guesses going on, mostly from the teams that aren't in here. And I clicked this thing open because I'm like, I can't wait to see what he says about the Commanders, not even knowing who the coach is. But there isn't one.
There isn't one.
I know. I thought for sure, I was like, oh, they're going to say something about Washington in year one with the new ownership and this new GM. And I'm going to be like, that's a little premature. They haven't even hired a head coach yet. Even though, wink, wink, we know who it is, don't we? Wink, 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 wink.
Right.
Everybody's onto it. Everybody.
Right.
Everybody has now decided to report, oh, it's happening.
Yep. Right. Exactly.
I will say, I'll get into this next hour. I actually do think the Falcons might get desperate. Because I got the feeling that they're getting the runaround from the experienced guys. Why isn't Belichick taking that job? Come on. They've rolled out the red carpet for him. Why isn't he taking that job? He's waiting for something else. Harbaugh's clearly not going there. So if they don't get either one of those guys, what are they going to do?
Well,
I already heard they brought Vrabel in, so I was waiting for that to happen. Right, I was waiting for that to happen.
They also were supposed to bring in Harbaugh tomorrow, but apparently, like, that's on hold because Chargers,
he's getting a deal done with the Chargers.
Well, the Chargers are doing
the Chargers are going to get it done because you can't wait forever. You have to get it done. You can't play footsie the whole time.
They're doing the Dan thing. They're not letting him out of the building. That's what's happening.
Yeah, so, get the deal done. So he's again. This is. I haven't seen an out of left field one yet. Belichick's going to be the out of left field one.
Probably.
Someone's going to surprise you.
Probably.
Someone's going to surprise you. The Jets. Someone's going to surprise you. He's going to come out of the woodwork and hire him. Well, that's what's going to happen.
You also had today, Joe Barry was fired as the coordinator in Green Bay. So once again, like, there's going to be kind of too many musical chairs. There's going to be not enough chairs open. And I'm telling you, like, Vrabel, could go somewhere as a defensive coordinator. Like,
Vrabel, I think
someone's going to be a super team.
I said this about us. Like, if we hire Ben Johnson, I don't have an issue with them going, Mike Vrabel, come in here, be the defensive coordinator. We know you're going to be a head coach next year, but like, come in here and do that for me for a year, get that going the right way, and bring your person who's going to replace you with you, please.
Right, exactly.
And we'll know what it is. Anyway, all right, let's get to Jeremy Fowler's predictions from unnamed executives of things he thinks is going to happen. And number one is, God, do I hope this happens. Russell Wilson ends up with the Raiders.
Okay.
Of which I guarantee you Davante Adams will ask for a trade the next day. So I don't believe this will happen. There's no way. He's not going to do it again. He will ask for a trade. Even though they got the coach that he wanted to come in, he will ask for a trade. And just think about the coach they just hired. He's Mr. No Nonsense. You think he and Russ are going to get along? Like Antonio Pierce, who's probably 5 years older than Russ, maybe, who's total no-nonsense approach, is going to put up with TikTok land and Russ in Vegas?
No, I think
Are you kidding?
No, I think you're not giving Russ enough credit for actually cleaning his act up this year.
That is the weird part of the whole thing going down with Denver.
He wasn't perfect in Denver. He still did a few things that pissed the fan base off, but like, he was a good soldier. He got up there and spoke to the media. I think he could be like Wentz, where now he's learned, I can't kind of do this.
His Q rating for me on that press conference where he admitted all the things that they had said had happened, did it in a very professional manner, and just took all the questions and said, I actually think he was on the right side of it, because he was basically kind of probably like, go look at how I played and tell me if I deserved this time.
Right.
I know y'all don't like me, but go watch how I played and ask yourself the real question here. Did I deserve what happened here after all of this? Because the truth is, I didn't play that poorly here.
Right.
We saw him early. And I remember saying at the time, I said, he looks a lot more like the guy in Seattle than he did in his first year in Denver. And that's a good sign for him. So the way this unraveled, this is a personality conflict.
Right.
That's all this is. Like, Peyton came in, was told you got to work with him because we have this contract. But Peyton clearly wanted him out from the get-go.
Sure.
He made life hellacious for him in the offseason.
Right.
Said all those crazy things about him before he ever even got to the season. Then the guy didn't play all that poorly, really.
He didn't say anything about that stuff either.
Didn't say anything, and then he tried to get rid of him anyway. So Peyton walked in the door going, yeah, I'll work with Russ, angling to get him out from day one.
That's right.
That's all that happened here.
No, but
that's all that happened.
What I'm getting at is,
and so Russ isn't on the wrong side of that argument, in my opinion.
So that's what I'm saying. I think you sleep on that. Russ could maybe he's learned his lesson, that he knows that he'd be going on his third team in, what has it now been? Third team in 4 years.
If you're Denver and you think he sucks, you trade him to the Raiders tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. No,
why wouldn't you?
Right.
If you think he sucks, you trade him to your division rival.
You can't trade him, though. You're not going to trade him.
They won't. I don't think they can.
You're right. They're going to cut him.
Right.
If you're the Raiders, you're not giving him an asset.
Well, not giving up anything for him.
Right.
So he may end up going there. That's the prediction. And the quote was this: the Raiders need a veteran. They're one of Wilson's original teams he wanted to go to.
He was on that
said
list,
one executive. He said he'd stay in the AFC West Coast. And Wilson's wife, Ciara, can do a residency as a live performer. And I think that was half tongue-in-cheek.
It has to be. I don't think she's big enough to do a residency.
Well, maybe at the off-strip place.
Maybe, but she's not. Adele does a residency, not Ciara.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she's doing it at the Rio. The Rio still exists out there. Okay, guys?
Adele, Britney Spears,
yeah, but
Elton
they're
John.
at the big place. They're at the big place.
I know.
What's the residency at the Circus? You don't know.
I don't know.
Is that Thunder Down Under?
No idea.
Richard Simmons?
Not familiar with their work.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So she might have one of those out there. Blue Man Group might have that. Who knows?
That's got to be tongue-in-cheek.
Maybe a little bit. But all right. Well, okay. After they cut him, all right, maybe. Jeremy Fowler puts it there. He goes, the teams that we would watch are Atlanta, Tampa. Yes. I think Tampa's less likely because I think they'll keep Baker now.
Right.
Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Absolutely.
But if you're taking Russ, why aren't you re-signing Kirk if you're Minnesota? You think Russ is better than Kirk right now?
I think Kirk's going to actually have a big contract, and I think Minnesota is going to freak out and not do it.
Kirk is going to get 3 years, $150 million.
Yeah.
Book it.
Yeah, I said that.
Guaranteed, again, because he is the best free agent quarterback available, period.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
And you don't have to give anything up to get him.
Right.
Kirk has played as a businessman.
Beast.
Huge beast.
One seed.
Like
one seed.
Him, Darrelle Revis,
Yep.
and Ndamukong Suh.
Yep.
And in Revis and Suh's case, you got to not care where you go.
Correct. Yep.
In Kirk's case, I don't actually, I think he's the one seed. He's played this better than anybody with an exception of Deshaun Watson, who I think got a desperate team to do a desperate thing because they wouldn't have gotten him, and they can't attract people like this. So they bit the bullet and did a contract that they never would have done for anybody else because of the circumstances. So I don't know, do I give Watson credit for that, or do I just give the circumstances credit for he was going to go to either New Orleans, Atlanta, or something like that, or Carolina, but Cleveland came with a contract. Those other ones went, I can't give you that. And so he took it.
Right.
Does that make him a good businessman, good negotiator, or did Cleveland just go, we'll do whatever it takes, and that's what it is?
They found a desperate partner.
They found a desperate team.
Yeah.
Kirk is a legitimate, incredible businessman. He started this whole, you're going to guarantee my contract early.
Right.
Got it. And it's persisted all the way through. And because, again, he'll be the only one with this kind of experience level and the stats behind it, he's going to be in the driver's seat because multiple teams will want him, and he'll get it again.
Correct. He also, though, I think there's a difference here. Kirk plays the most important position in the sport, so he can leverage that. Revis, though, Revis was the first defensive mercenary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Suh stole Revis's strategy. 1 year deal guaranteed. Then it wasn't Suh, it was Clowney after that. 1 year.
Well, Clowney doesn't get those big numbers, though.
He still gets the 1 year, 10 to 15 million.
Clowney has turned into, and I have a funny feeling Chase Young is going in this direction.
Mm-hmm.
If Chase Young could stay healthy enough to play as long as Clowney has, I think he's going to go team to team. I will actually be very surprised if he gets a very long, lucrative contract from one particular team, because I think he's going to be on prove-it deals. Clowney turned out, it wasn't injuries. It was there's not a lot of big plays.
Yeah, right.
Now, he looks awakened on Baltimore all of a sudden.
Well, it's because Baltimore. Baltimore does that with all their veterans.
But this is what happens when you bring a guy in and the games get big again. I think they get motivated.
Yeah, but this is a Baltimore thing. Calais Campbell was like 37 and making plays last year or 2 years ago.
Right.
Like, I think it's a Baltimore thing.
He's had a consistent great career.
Yeah, but he was like...
Jadeveon Clowney has not had a consistent career. Jadeveon Clowney is a lot like Chase Young, but with the caveat of Young had a serious injury that I think has changed everything about his trajectory. Jadeveon Clowney hasn't.
Right.
He just hasn't turned out to be the guy that they thought he would be. Everyone thought he would be what we thought Chase Young would be.
Sure.
Just didn't work out that way. He's a mercenary now because he's just going to the best offer at this point because that's all there is anymore.
Right.
Nobody's offering him $100 million.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a good one from Jeremy Fowler's piece. The Packers are going to win the Super Bowl in New Orleans next year. Said an AFC scout. Green Bay's young nucleus has one to build from. The offensive line was playing really well. The defense was up and down, but they finished the year much better. They've always had talent on that side of the ball. Can they be consistent is the only question he has. Green Bay winning the Super Bowl next year. I mean, again, this is way, way, way too early. We haven't had the draft or free agency yet. And in some cases, some people don't even have their coach. And one of them is going to be Bill Belichick somewhere. And Jim Harbaugh somewhere. So I think we need to slow down on picking somebody to win the Super Bowl next year. You don't even know what they're going to do. That said, plus, they were 9-8, guy. In a weak division. Minnesota was bad and Chicago was bad.
Right, I was going to say, they're not even going to win their division.
I'm interested to see what happens to Detroit when Ben Johnson's gone and Aaron Glenn might be gone too. Okay. I'm very interested go ask the Eagles about that.
Yeah, but as I said to you, they have foolproof team building. They have a pass rush that's relentless, and they have a quarterback that's gotten better, and they have a really good run game with a good offensive line. That doesn't just go away because of an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator.
The Philadelphia Eagles have the best offensive line.
Sure.
Really great skill position people and a really top-level quarterback who's actually mobile, and their offense went a little sideways this year. But I don't know. You tell me.
Right, but we also easily predict that it was something in the locker room that screwed them up.
But this is what I'm saying. Just when people leave like this, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. You don't know.
Hold on. Wait.
It is. When the coordinators leave, it's a big deal.
No, I'm not discounting that, though. But what I will say is this. There's Sirianni as a leader, and then there's Dan Campbell. And I'm rolling into battle with Dan Campbell through anything. So there's a difference between those two guys to lead their teams.
I hear you, but I think they have high-level coordinators.
Yeah.
One of them's going to get a job, the other one might. Right? They're then going to raid that staff to bring people with them in elevated positions. Everyone's already basically said Hank Fraley's coming here with Ben. So they're going to raid the staff. So it's going to be a whole new staff underneath him. If they start slowly because they're not on the same page, you know how it goes with that messaging of biting kneecaps and yelling and all that stuff. It goes sour fast if they're not winning.
Yeah, except
it's true. That's the truth of it. It goes sour fast when you're not winning.
The difference, though, is he's been doing it for 3 years and has literally said out loud, if you don't want to be a tough-minded individual, no hard feelings, you don't have to play here.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
We're on the same page. I like this guy.
Right. So somehow,
I'm rooting for him this weekend. I want him to be in the Super Bowl. I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for them. But the idea that they are automatically going to be good again next year, I think let's wait and see what their staff looks like before we make a judgment on something like that. And that's why I would say this about saying who's going to win the Super Bowl right now. That's not cart before the horse.
Yeah.
That's Earth before the universe. What do you don't even know what the teams look like at this point.
The universe.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Here's one that will matter to us. The 49ers roster will take a slight step back is one NFC executive, Adam Peters, said there's a lot for John Lynch to overcome. They could get exposed in free agency in the draft because it's not just that Adam Peters was hired here. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah went to the Vikings. Rand Carthon's now at the Titans. Adam Peters here. Executive Ethan Wall left in 2022 to become the Jaguars' assistant GM. So they've gotten rated of talent in the front office. And like everything else, it has to catch up to you. And that's what they're basically saying here. I don't know if it happens overnight because, again, not just like your Detroit example, their roster is going to be good next year.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Debo will be back.
Yep.
McCaffrey will be back.
Ayuk will be back, yeah.
Maybe there's a different quarterback. We'll have to see how that goes. That's a maybe. But, I think Trent's back. The offensive line ought to be – Fred Warner's back. Bosa's back. The Hargrave just got signed. They're not going to have a bad team.
Right.
But I think what he's pointing out is that All they're saying is, and maybe this is wishful thinking, they won't reload like they have the last few years because the guys who are reloading them are now gone and dispersed around the league, and therefore replacing that. So will they draft as well? Will they hit on free agency as well? I mean, we can all hope that that's the case, that they're going to be right, that this will revert back in a different direction because they are a monster, and it would be nice to see that monster, get chipped at a little bit here.
Right.
So we'll see. One executive told Jeremy Fowler he thinks the Cardinals will make a playoff run. And
okay, fine.
If Kyler Murray is healthy for the entire year, and they were very competitive this year, and we don't know what the Rams look like, and we don't know what the Seahawks look like, sure.
Right.
And I'd also say this about every NFL team. Every single one of them can make a playoff run. That's not even every single one of them could.
They also have a bunch of draft picks coming up, too.
Yeah.
So, young talent.
Let's see. Here's a good guess. NFC executive says C.J. Stroud will finish top 3 in MVP voting next year. Described him as poised. I agree with that. And he said, the arrow's pointing, he said out, but he meant up. It's really pointing up. He's got the talent around him. So I agree with that. One said Baker Mayfield will re-sign with the Bucs. That seems like a duh at this point. Yep. And then the two ones that really stood out that I thought were really interesting. Here is let's see, who said this? He didn't cite who said it, but some executive says this. Chase Young and Montez Sweat will be teammates again in Chicago.
Okay, sure.
They got a lot of cap room.
They do.
They're very close friends. If they go to Montez Sweat and ask him, do you want him here? He will say yes.
Okay.
They're like very close friends. Is that the right thing for Chicago to do?
Right.
I would argue probably not, partially because they are really close friends, and sometimes that's not the best to have.
Right.
Now, if he's going to turn around and be the Chase Young we thought we drafted, well, then I would argue, yes, you should do that. And they do have a lot of cap space, and they are looking for more defensive talent. So do they throw a lot of money at him? He won't turn it down.
Right.
So I guess it's possible if they've come around to, because they've been hit and miss with their go-after guys. Sweat's turned out to be a good one for them. Roquan Smith was a huge mistake. Mm-hmm. Claypool was a huge mistake.
Yep.
They brought in Tremaine Edmonds.
Yep.
I haven't heard much about him this year. Was that good? Was that bad? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. They spent more money on him than they did on Roquan.
Sometimes just a bad team is a bad team. Though.
Right. Sweat redeemed him a lot by doing this deal because he ended up showing up playing really well. Chicago's defense got better. But on the bigger swings that he's taken, not all of them worked out. DJ Moore was very good for them. Mm-hmm. Sweat was really good for them. Tremaine Edmonds over Roquan Smith doesn't make a lot of sense at this point. And Claypool was a huge miss. So let's see what happens here. Is that possible? Sure. Would Chase Young probably want to do that? Yeah, I bet he would.
Sure.
He's very close friends with him. So we'll see.
That screams to me a very Dan Snyder move if they were to throw the money at him. I don't think that'll happen because the market dictates itself these days. But
I hate talking about this because I love the guy. I do. I think he's a really good person. I really like him. But anybody who throws that kind of contract, like a large contract to him, in my opinion, is making a humongous mistake. Not that I think that's why I think he will go this Clowney road. Like, it's going to be a year by year. He'll get real money. It's not like nobody's going to be like, "You want to play for the minimum?" And he'll be like, "No." So he'll get real money, but I don't think he's going to get. And if the Bears offer him something like that, he should take it.
Right.
The last one he put out was this, and this is and Kirk is trying to will this to happen by speaking it to the universe. There is an executive from the AFC who said Bill Belichick and Kirk Cousins will both be Falcons this year, and then will win the NFC South, which I would believe. Because Carolina doesn't seem like they're going to get out of their own way. Tampa Bay is average, right? Maybe does Baker ascend higher than what he showed this year? I'm open to all ideas, but I think we've seen this before. He's probably maxed out at that, and then it will be disappointing if he doesn't ascend higher, but it's still better than whatever the alternatives were. Yeah. And with New Orleans, Carr is so wonky weird, and they're kind of wonky weird that I agree with this. Like the Falcons, with the right coach and the right quarterback, should win that division. So I agree with that. I'm wondering what's happening with Belichick here because it feels like it's just slow rolled. Or he's slow rolling them. I mean, he's had 2 interviews with them. Clearly they want to hire him. He hasn't said yes. Why is that? Who's he talking to that we don't know about?
I think I'll chalk this up. I think I said this earlier this week. I think the Falcons have tabbed like Ben Johnson or someone as their number 1 choice. And they're just waiting to interview someone like that's still in the playoffs right now.
Ben Johnson?
Yeah.
So you think they want him over Belichick?
I think I think they want to interview everybody. So they're waiting to interview their guys.
I'm going to get this at 4 o'clock because I'm with you on that. I'm worried that it's the Falcons who really want him. Like, I don't think the Panthers are going to get him Because I think his agent's going to tell him to come here before
course.
he would go there.
Well, his agent's going to say go anywhere else except for down there.
Right.
So
if you have options.
If
you don't have options.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I think
take the money.
No, I think the way the Falcons have gone, though, and who they're interviewing, because they're literally interviewing everybody. They're interviewing Belichick, Harbaugh, Vrabel, Morris. Morris was an interim head coach there for a little bit.
That's right.
So I'm just saying, I think the Falcons are just doing their due diligence, and I think they might even say to Belichick, hey, man, we actually really like you, but we do want to interview everybody. We want to cast the net here. So here's the other thing, too. They must know that Belichick doesn't have a huge
I think
Belichick
is going to be one of those people, though, like, I don't really need to show you my resume, do I?
No, but you still want to talk and
like,
get your
there's
philosophy
this famous
down.
Spurrier thing where he went to South Carolina and then Florida, I guess, thought about rehiring him. And they were like, he said something about the resume, and he said to the guy hiring him, look behind you, look at all those trophies. That's my resume.
Right.
And I think with Belichick, it'd be the same thing. Like, if you're asking me to sell myself to you, then I think we've got this backwards. You should be selling yourself to me. I'm the greatest coach of all time. You know who I am.
Yeah, but
don't need to. I don't need to read line. I don't need to do a table read. I'm Bradley Cooper.
You still have to go through the
you
process,
either want me
though.
or you don't.
Right, but
I'm Robert De Niro. I'm not trying out for this.
It's Blank's organization, though. You have to go through the process. It's, okay, what are we doing at quarterback? What are you doing with personnel? Do you want personnel? Do you not want personnel? You have to answer those questions.
Some of the reporting is that Rich McKay and the rest of the front office don't want Belichick to come in because they're all scared.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I think they're just doing their due diligence. Once again, I think a team like Seattle fired Quinn or moved Carroll over because they saw how good the pool of candidates was.
Yeah.
And I think the Falcons are doing the same thing. They're just saying, we really like you.
Well, they also underachieved. I think Seattle was about right. If they're being realistic, I think they were right about where I think everybody thought they would be. Maybe they underachieved a little bit, whatever. But I agree. I think they fired Pete because it probably was time. And I've talked about this a lot with the Commanders. There are a tremendous array of really good candidates, more unusual than in years past. And maybe the Falcons are seeing it that way too. But it felt all along the Falcons want the guy. We're open to, we want next.
Right.
They want the guy. I still feel like Dan Quinn's going to end up in Seattle. That just felt too on the nose when they made the move and he's doing the cycle. And even Jerry's not trying to go out of his way to protect him.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram wants to show ESPN 630 Sports Capital. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Come to Virginia.
Oh, God. You saw some of those quotes today?
Yeah. What did he say? They said the stadium's going to pay for itself, huh?
That's what the politicians were saying, yes.
Remind me when the last time that happened.
Yeah, right. Yes, exactly.
Ever.
Yes, right.
I'll hang up and wait for your answer.
I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, hang up and listen to that one. Thank you. Let's see. Boy, people are... Doc Rivers, oh, man, what a move. So he, out of Philadelphia, takes lead analyst job with Doris Burke. They fired Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson. He doesn't even make it to February of year one before he takes, and I don't blame him here, a good job.
Sure.
He's got 2 Hall of Famers on his team, and they could win a championship, period.
So
they're 30-13 and complaining. They're 30-13 and complaining. So if they get, I don't know, just think about this for a second, 10% better than what they are right now, like 10% better, that makes them 33-9, 33-10.
There were some weird quotes that came out, by the way. I don't know if you read any of the pieces because there was a bunch of them. So I guess there was something going on. That he said some kind of quote of sacrifices have to be made. Like he said that during the in-season tournament. Mm-hmm. And I guess guys were like, what are you talking about? And I don't know. That's kind of typical coach speak, though. Like if everyone wants to get better, that's just like a normal quote. So I don't know. Like I don't understand really what this is about. Like
I don't know if I totally believe this yet, but I kind of do because of how this is going down, that someone was insinuating that he was a consultant with them for the entire year.
Oh.
Which is, that's as backstabby as it gets. If he was a literal paid consultant, which would make sense to me. He was unemployed as a coach with another team, so why wouldn't he do that, right?
Yeah.
If he was a paid consultant. But then if he was a paid consultant who then urged the owner to fire the first-year head coach and hire him, that's a level of backstabbing deviousness that I admire on some level and also am like, wow.
Well, It also,
if that's true, but that people were insinuating that's what was going on, and this is why this kind of went down.
It wasn't
the way
just
that
him
this
though,
did.
because like as I said yesterday, Stephen A. said on the air that Giannis didn't like him. Clearly, Dame didn't like him if they made this move and they were in the position they were in. So
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't the guy for those guys. They weren't meshing well. That's the only thing I could think of.
maybe. So have you seen this piece from Marcin Gortat?
No.
Have you seen this?
No, I haven't heard that name in a while since you guessed what that
Okay.
kid's jersey is.
They did a long. It's a site called Hoops Hype that got him, and they did a long Q&A with him about all sorts of things, and some of it is just about his background, and then he's asked things about like social media. He's asked about European players and all this stuff, and then it gets around to the Wizards.
Okay.
And here's what his answer was to the question of, you were with the Wizards in their most successful era. In your opinion, what went wrong during that time? Okay. He said this. Well, and we're going to pat ourselves on the back when you hear this, because we were on this, know this, and have been screaming about this for years. Quote, well, as crazy as it sounds, I will say that we probably should have kept Randy Whitman as a coach.
Ah, yes. Somebody said it out loud.
Scott Jackson is also cheering.
Scott Jackson just popped champagne.
This is Scott Jackson and I think alike about a lot of things. And on this one, and you're on board with this too.
Oh, yeah, I've been on it.
As it turned out,
he was the most accountable head coach they might have ever had in 20 to 30 years.
The mistake that they made was walking away from him, actually.
Yep.
He's not a big name head coach, but as it turns out, it was the only point in time during that era that Wall, Beal, and company played defense.
Yep, correct. Yep.
The only time.
Emphasis.
Yes.
He was like Carbs. He would call them out after games and stuff when they wouldn't play defense.
He reiterates this. He goes, I know what I'm saying sounds crazy, but that's what we should have done. It doesn't to me, not to the people who watched it
That's right.
at all.
Exactly.
Like, it became clear that like he should not have been relieved of his duties. And the crazy part is, loyal Ted typically doesn't do things like that if things are working.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you also don't know who angled to fire him either. Like, did
Could have
Brad
been
do
Wall.
it? Did Wall? Yeah, Wall had the power at the time. So, I mean.
Brad likes to be the Iceman, doesn't he?
Brad was,
Yeah.
I got to look it up, though. Brad was hurt most of his first year or two in the league,
Yes,
though.
he was. He had a lot of
So I
injuries.
think that might not have mattered with it. Like, there's no way he had that power by the time.
Maybe he went to them and said, I'm getting hurt because this guy's pushing me
Oh,
too
my God. If
hard.
that happened, I would have to sour
Load
on him.
management.
I'd have to sour on him even more. Speaking of load management, did you see that latest study? Doesn't do anything.
Did that do anything? Yeah, I believe it. Let me go on here what he said about this. He said this. He goes, the only coach that was able to control John Wall was Randy Whitman. And they were bumping heads, and I was bumping heads with Randy. Randy was a hell of a good coach, though, and he knew what he was doing. He was able to control John. He was able to control Brad. And he was bringing the right people on board from a player standpoint. And we were missing in that one maybe one or two good role players for us to make a bigger run. And then also we needed some luck. John broke his hand, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
He goes, and that was over. He goes, our main guy broke his hand. The guy couldn't dribble the ball. His hand was a giant potato. He wasn't able to grab anything in his hand. He played a game with one hand, so we needed some luck. But he goes on to say this. Randy should stay as the coach and add one or two better signings to the organization. Overall, we all should have done better, but we had an incredible team. And back in the day when you sat in the plane, when we were flying to another city, we didn't care where we were flying to because we knew what we were bringing. And we were bringing a freaking storm when we showed up. We had so many weapons, so many levels. John, Beal, me on the pick and roll, Nene inside. Oh my God, we were a hell of a team. And he goes, and then the year we had Otto Porter coming off the bench and Trevor Ariza starting and Andre Miller coming off the bench, we had a squad. However, right now we only have memories. And like I said, we should have kept Randy Whitman.
So I've cross-referenced the graphs here. Whitman took over in 2011-12. I think he was interim head coach there.
Yeah.
Okay, so he took over there. Then he was the full head coach 12-13. That was Brad's first year. Mm-hmm. Brad played 56 games.
Yeah, he got hurt a lot.
He started 46, so he wasn't full-blown starter at that point.
He kept getting hurt. Yeah.
Then, though, 2013-14. So Whitman stayed on for 4 years. 12, 13, 14, and 15 seasons. Mm-hmm. Brad's rookie year was 12-13. So he was with Brad the first 4 years. Brad, though, did play 73 games and started 73 games in year 2. So maybe his power started to grow a little bit, but the last year Whitman was there, he actually only started 35 games and played in 55.
Remember, we kept talking about, can Brad stay healthy? That was a big thing for a while.
It was a big thing.
Can he stay healthy? Maybe Brad. I don't want to say we shouldn't accuse anybody of anything, but maybe Brad was telling Ted, "This guy's pushing us too hard, and I keep getting hurt." I mean, is that all things considered now? And like, we surmised it quickly. We were like, they were a better team with Randy Whitman as the head coach. But nobody would believe that because he's not a big name head coach. But it was so obvious, at least on the defensive end of the court, they were a way better franchise at that point in time.
The funny thing is they lost in the conference semifinals both those years, 13-14, 14-15. So I think they just got squirrely. They wanted a better head coach.
They thought they were ready to win. They went and got a guy who had been at a very high level, who had dealt with stars.
Here's what happened with Ted. I think here's what happened with
Even
Ted.
Gortat said this, too. He said they bunt heads a lot with each other. But they respected him. They played for the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the important part.
Yep,
the important part is, do they play for the guy? Like the Bucks clearly knifed this dude the other day.
Right.
I didn't hear of, or maybe it's just not on this level because they're not a team that had championship aspirations, but like looked like the team that could be a problem. And also they get no play nationally. Maybe that was going on, but nobody just really reported on it.
Yeah.
But Gortat is portraying a situation where he said, we respected him. We didn't agree with everything, but we respected him.
Yeah.
I knew this. I'm so glad mystery solved. A player on that team admits that they made a mistake letting Randy Whitman go, which is one of the, God, you got to be in the weeds of Washington sports to even have that conversation in 2024, frankly.
This is also what happened. Look at their records when they lost in the conference semifinals. They won 44 games in 13-14. They won 46 games in 14-15. Then that year where Brad was hurt, they went 500. They won 41 games. So because the organization saw a dip there, that's why he got fired, when really one of their best players was actually hurt, and they missed the playoffs that year.
Yeah.
That's what did it.
Now, this piece got played not because of the Wizards stuff. It got played because he played for Doc Rivers and was asked about that.
Got it.
So here's what he said about. So I'm glad. Thank you, Marcin, for solving the mysteries for us on the Wizard. Well, on the Wizard stuff, thank you. Yeah. Like, because these are the type of things that no one else would typically ever ask or care to ask. But I feel so validated today that we've known this, that was a mistake that was made. Here's what he said. What was your experience playing under Doc Rivers, and what are your thoughts on his coaching style? Marcin Gortat. I didn't have the best time with Doc Rivers, unfortunately. He's a good dude, and he's great to talk to. Hold on. This thing just moved. He's great to talk to with incredible stories and rich history of the NBA. However, I wouldn't trust his coaching decisions. I just don't have confidence in them. And he was asked, what do you mean by that? He goes, I don't trust him in many areas. I've been with some of the greatest coaches in the NBA, and one of the best was Stan Van Gundy. He's an incredible coach who prepares you for every game in practice. When things get tough in the game, Stan calls a timeout. You know you'll get valuable information and a play that puts you on the right path. He's a leader on the bench, and you can trust him. Stan will come up with something to make it better. He's incredible with discipline, work ethic, keeping everyone accountable, etc. He's an incredible coach and even now remains exceptional. Just listen to what he has to say. Then he goes on to reiterate, Randy Whitman was this type of coach too. He said that as well. Now, going back to Doc, I just don't trust him. I couldn't trust him, and that's it. That's quite an indictment. He basically lauded all these other coaches that he had. He said Alvin Gentry was great. He said Randy Whitman was great. He went on and on about Stan Van Gundy. And when asked about Doc Rivers, he said, you know what? Not so much.
Well, how many Game 7s at home has Doc lost?
Tell the whole story.
I'm saying for multiple franchises.
Yeah.
Not just those Clippers teams. He lost Game 7s with the 76ers at home. So what Gortat's saying is kind of true. He hasn't been the best coach with the best decisions. And he's had stacked rosters with it, too.
If you want to go down rabbit holes with Orlando, with him and Dwight Howard, you can do that with Marcin Gortat. Yep. It goes on and on and on and on. But this is newsworthy on this guy was a very good NBA player who openly, praised a coach that everyone didn't even know, doesn't really remember. And then Doc Rivers basically said, yeah, not so much.
Right.
And then Doc, did he angle to get this job?
I think no, I think.
What happened there? How did they
player.
hire this guy, then fire him 4 months later?
It's the players, man. It's a players'
But
league.
they want Doc. They wanted Doc.
No, I'm just
if
saying.
you listen to what Gortat said, you might get the impression that that's not the guy that they would.
No,
go
I'm
with
saying
to
they didn't
replace
want
him.
the last guy. That's all.
Okay. But they had to have had a say of who they wanted to be the next guy, right? If they had that kind of power to walk into the owner's office or whoever and say, this ain't working here, you know it, we got to get rid of this guy. Well, the next thing the owner needs to say is, well, you know, we have to hire the next person. Well, are they the ones say, well, Doc Rivers is available, which would lead me back to, was he texting these guys telling them I could be your coach if you get rid of this guy?
No, I don't
was
think
he a
that's happening.
consultant with them?
No, dude, I think you're overthinking it. It's a players' league. They didn't like the coach. They went to the ownership and
that's
said,
it?
we want someone else.
And so they did.
Go ask the Lakers. They do it every year.
That's true.
They fire the coach every single year because
they don't care.
They have an old roster that's not good.
They started it with Darvin Ham this
Yes,
year already. That started like a month and a half ago where they were
right.
like, nah, they don't like him so much.
Yeah.
And you're like, uh-huh.
Don't overthink this. It's a players' league. You even said yesterday maybe coaches are kind of overrated. They are in this league.
In that league, I think they are.
I think some can put you over the top.
I think
90% of them
Spoelstra's a
don't.
really good coach.
Yes.
Clearly.
10% of coaches are great. The other ones are just guys filling in.
That's true. Well, that's probably hockey, too.
Yes, agree. Yes, absolutely. You need a guy to change
I will
things
say
up.
this. Not in the NFL.
Duh. Yeah. No,
The coach
absolutely.
makes an enormous difference
yeah, no,
in the NFL.
totally different.
Massive, enormous difference.
no.
Because they can control problems.
Yeah.
All right, let me take a quick break. Bram Watson Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. Hell, I knew I was going to do a Vegas read here by playing this song back in. Ready? I'm heading out to, I haven't talked about this a lot. I'm going to do Radio Row this year. I don't know why I haven't brought that up. I'm going to be out in Vegas. We're going to do the show live Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from Radio Row in Las Vegas. I'm very excited about that. And I'm starting to line up some guests now, and hopefully I'll run into all the goodies while I'm out there, too. So it'll be fun.
You're not getting sponsored by the team, to talk on their behalf?
No, I'm not. Yeah.
Just saying.
Who knows?
Radio Row. Everyone chills.
Maybe. Who knows? Could change. We have a good trip to give away here, too, to Vegas during the weekend of the big game. Enter now for your chance to win a trip for two to Las Vegas, which includes airfare, 2-night stay at the brand-new Fontainebleau Las Vegas, and a $150 credit, 2 tickets to the Fontainebleau Las Vegas big game viewing party at the Blue Live Theater. All you got to do is text the word luxury to 95819. That is luxury to 95819. Standard messaging and data rates may apply. Contest rules at sportscapitaldc.com/contests. Fontainebleau's like brand new. I heard it's gorgeous.
Yep.
So maybe I'll meet you there. If you go, if the winner, I might meet you there because I'm going to go check it out.
It is,
so I might as well go. I'm not staying there because Radio Row's in a different part of town.
Right.
But I do want to see it, and as you all know, I love Las Vegas. So you want to buy me a drink at the Fontainebleau, I'll meet you there. If we give you this free trip, I think you owe me that.
I'm pretty sure that's for the entire company. So it might not be somebody from our area that wins it. That's all.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So just saying.
I'm glad you clarified that.
So the guy in Texas doesn't know who you are.
Sorry,
So-
Toothpick. I didn't mean to insinuate that if you spam text us, you're definitively going to get it.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for pointing
You
that
are-
out.
It's a big contest. This is what happens. This is what happens.
I feel bad now. I thought this was just for our people. Okay, fine. I hope
It's
we
still
get
a
it.
free trip.
I
Enter
agree.
it.
If
Somebody
you get
has
it,
to win.
okay. If you get it from this area, you can buy me a drink.
There you
I'll
go.
buy you a drink because it sounds like you're going to be 1 in a million now. All right. You got a better chance of hitting Powerball. Cool.
Say, you got to play some roulette if you're out there. And
Well,
you win that
what's
trip.
it cost you? Just text the word in. And, you never know. Maybe we'll see you in
Someone's
Vegas
got to
that
win it.
week.
That's what I always say.
God, I mean, the Q rating of Jason Kelce goes up and up and up.
I listened to
everybody,
it this morning, by the way. Their podcast.
Everybody saw what happened in Buffalo. He showed up. He went into Bills Mafia in the tailgate. He drank with them.
Yep.
He's man of the people. Then everyone saw him in the booth. He's wearing a Chiefs hat, took his shirt off.
Yep.
It's whatever, negative 58 there. He jumped out of the luxury suite at one point in time, actually got back in,
Yes.
and which showed off the athleticism that is there
Yeah.
for why he's a Hall of Fame player.
Right.
He's a very, very large man who jumps like an orangutan. It's like unbelievable the way he moves.
He's
right?
the best
way he
center in the
moves,
league.
Right.
I'm not shocked.
Yes. And everyone was like, and everyone also pointed out that there was this one part where he did the like the crazy scream, like he's a
Yes, the
barbarian
primal
scream.
scream,
Yeah,
yes.
primal screams. And you could see his wife in the background, and she just got this look on her face like, well, that's what I mean.
So,
seems okay about it.
So to give you the play-by-play on this, I listened to New Heights this morning because it was must listen. Like you had to listen to the breakdown of this. And
Well, there's two big moments that had to be broken down, one from each brother here.
Correct.
They're making viral moments and then explaining the viral moment.
Yes, exactly. But my favorite was what's the bar near the stadium that's like a classic bar or something?
Bill's? I don't know that one.
It's like an establishment though. That basically he said he was drinking there beforehand.
The Pickles of Orchard Park?
Yes, because like the players used to go there way back in the day and get drunk during 2-a-days is essentially what happened.
Right.
So he said he started to make his way out, and then that's when you saw him partying with Bill's Mafia and taking the shot from the bowling ball and everything. And he wanted to take his shirt off then, but was told you probably can't stay around that long. So you're going to party, but we're going to get you into the suite. He said when he got into the suite, he turned to his wife, Kylie, and said, "Hey, I'm just letting you know, at some point I'm taking my shirt off and I'm jumping into the stands because I see how close we are to the fans." And she was like, "Dude, come on." In which he said, "I wasn't really asking for permission.
Yes.
I'm just telling you."
Here's the quote. He goes, "I gave Kylie a heads up.
Yep.
She said, 'Jason, don't you
Yep,
dare.'
right.
I said, 'I'm not asking for permission. I'm doing this.' She was already telling me to be on my best behavior because we were meeting Taylor Swift. And I'm like, 'Kylie, the first day I met you, I was blackout drunk and fell asleep at a bar.
True
This
story.
is part of the charm.'"
That's right. Good for him.
True.
He
Never
is who he is.
change.
He is who he is.
Never change.
Yeah.
And whatever. And apparently the charm worked for Swift. She liked it,
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah, so Travis actually didn't mention anything about Taylor Swift in today's episode, but did say she loved you. That was the quote.
Now, the Swifties are going to really take to this quote because Jason Kelce, responding to that, said, "Well, Tay said she absolutely loves you.
Yes.
And if you don't think that's a big deal that he calls her Tay, you don't know these people."
That's right.
Okay?
Correct.
When I go home and tell my daughter that on a podcast, Travis Kelce called Taylor Swift Tay, it will start a group chat that you will not believe among 14-year-olds of what does that actually mean.
Right.
So this is circulating around the Swiftie globe, which, as you know, is much bigger than even the NFL.
Correct.
So the fact that he calls her Tay is going to be looked into and delved into seriously.
Yeah, of
Have
course.
previous boyfriends called her that? Is that a nickname of choice? Did he name her that? Does she like it? Does she not like it? What does this mean?
Right.
Then we had one more viral moment. Everyone assumed after Travis Kelce scored a touchdown that when he did a heart sign, it was meant for Tay.
All right.
He says it wasn't.
I mean, he's lying, but go ahead.
Of course he's lying. That's a lie. Jason Kelce's telling the truth. I told you I was going to do all this. You married it. Deal with it. I'm going to do this. I got caught up in Bill's Mafia, and I drank 40 beers. What'd you expect from me?
I want to say this about Jason, too. You would appreciate this. When Jason was explaining it to Travis this morning on the podcast, he said, "I don't think anyone realizes what the last 8 weeks of my life have been like, so you kind of just saw it all burn out."
Yeah, I needed a moment.
He just said,
Just give me my moment.
It all came out in that day.
So Travis, after he did this, of course, from the football people, we're all going, "You're soft, dude." And that's what he heard.
Right.
So I'm with you. He's lying.
Well,
that is why he did it. But he's changed his mind and tried to say it's something else because he knows the football people are going, "We're watching you in real time go soft because you're in love." And you're in love with this pop star, and it's become, now it's so blatantly obvious that it's all you think about, that when you scored a touchdown against an arch rival in their stadium, the first thing you did was do something for her.
I'm going option C here, actually. I don't think it's either of those reasons. Because you have the one reason that he said. He said Bill's Mafia. He said it wasn't a mutual hate. He said he was doing it because he loved the crowd, right? Other team,
I don't believe that.
Other team is, he did it for Taylor Swift.
Of course.
I'm going C. This is full marketing because you know what happened
yesterday? Just do it.
No. You know what happened yesterday? There's a company that's called 500 Level. They're kind of like Breaking Tea, but they have contracts with the players specifically. So you can get merchandise out there, but they won't have the team stuff on it. So like you can get a shirt with Travis Kelce on it, but there's no Chiefs logos. What's the shirt they print up yesterday? Him doing the heart logo.
And he has a deal with them.
Well, every player has a deal with them. They're allowed to just contact the PA, and then there's a deal struck that's like automatically done. Travis doesn't have any merch that he can directly sell to the Swifties yet. So now he has a shirt with him doing the heart.
No.
That the Swifties can all go buy now Because guess what? If they make it to the Super Bowl, those suckers are flying for the next 2 weeks.
What was it, a year or two ago, Odell Beckham was fined big time for wearing a watch.
Yep, right, exactly.
Which we all knew was, you're trying to sell the watch. Why would you wear a $500,000 watch to a football game?
Right, exactly.
It's going to break.
Yeah.
Like, of course you, and you put it on the outside of your uniform so everybody can see that you're, so I'm on to you, dude. Like, I know what you're doing. Obviously, like, who wears a $500,000 watch in a game where you're going to get tackled by large men? Why would you ever do that, right? So we know what you're doing. They fined him for that.
Right.
If this is what he did, they need to find the
No, you can't prove it,
out of
though.
him.
You can't prove it, though. No, on his side on that, you can't prove that he's doing that. All these celebrations, you can't do that to him.
Oh, man.
Because the NFL probably makes a little bit of a cut on that anyways. So,
well, they've been making a lot of money on this Taylor Swift stuff.
They're going to look the other way if that is the case. So, I will say this. He had one big football thing that he said. Was it Rashee Rice that fumbled out of the end zone that caused the touchback?
No, Hardman.
Oh, yeah. It was
the
Hardman.
one complaint about the Chiefs I have. This is an aside. The 2 calls to give Hardman the ball inside the 5-yard line. What are you people thinking?
Either way.
Like, what are you doing?
I will say this. Travis owned up. It was his guy that he missed a block on that caused the fumble. And he said, like, he
still can't fumble.
He apologizes to him every day because it was his guy that caused the fumble because he shouldn't have even been in the vicinity.
Appreciate that.
That was the best football item from the show, essentially.
Okay, so that was the truth telling. The heart's a lie.
Yeah, I agree.
He didn't do it for Bills Mafia. No. Because who would get that? You wouldn't automatically get it. And the second he did it, everybody went, he has gone so soft.
He even said on the pod this morning that Bills Mafia kind of overstepped on what they said to him walking into the stadium, and he wouldn't repeat what they said. And him and Jason were like, we get it as a football game. It's playoffs. We're not going to hold it personally, but you wouldn't do that if they were saying that bad of stuff to you either.
Right. I mean, and they're extremely drunk people. Like,
right. You don't hold it against them.
Yeah. I think pound for pound, if we're going to go drinking, I think Buffalo might win.
Right.
Like, if we had the drink-off challenge for Bills Mafia versus any other group of fans,
they're winning.
I think they'd probably win. All right, be right back. Very much the show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital.